You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight I'm talking about our desire to be loved, and I'm talking about the situation we find ourselves in often in our life when pretty much everybody in our life likes us a lot or loves us or cares for us. But we got that one person that doesn't seem to love us for who we are, kind of doesn't accept us, puts us down, sometimes makes us feel bad. But doggone it, we want them to like us so much. And it takes up so much of our mind share that we become obsessive about that person, wondering, working, trying to be as amazing as possible, and trying to get that particular person's attention. I find it interesting because a lot of us deal with this, have dealt with this, either overcoming it or currently going through it. And you know what I mean when I speak of this, because we've all been there before. The desire to be loved, to be cared by everybody, that everybody cares about us. And it's often very interesting how one person, whether it's in a love type relationship or in a friend type relationship, doesn't really accept you, kind of makes you feel bad about yourself, isn't really there for you, but you're constantly thinking about them. And tonight I'm going to be talking about why we do that. The inherent reason why we do it, why we've done it since birth, why we continue to do it. I'm going to talk about the reasons behind it and what you can begin to do tonight to stop this endless cycle of trying to get attention and love from the wrong people. I know this is a hardcore subject tonight. And I understand that a lot of us go through it, and I've been there before myself. If I hadn't, I wouldn't be able to speak to this subject. You know, I find it very interesting. You listen to some shows out there, and I think you can tell, I can tell, immediately, when I'm listening to somebody that has figured it out, and they've gone through it, and they've used intelligence and considerable thought, and they've really looked at it from different angles, and they figured out a perspective, and they've done it with truth and honesty and authentic living, whereas I see the difference when people haven't done it, and they're just telling you what you should do. So tonight, let's really get into this subject, because I think that this is so important. I see a lot of people every day come into my office, and they are frustrated with, they are even tired, honestly, of talking about it, but yet it's taking up so much of their mind share, they just don't understand. And I want to begin tonight's discussion with a really good example, because I think this example is going to hit home with a lot of y'all. And the example is this. I think for the most part, most of you are loved and cared for by the majority of the people in your life. And so you kind of get used to that. You get used to people caring about you. You get used to people loving your ideas and being very amazing towards you. And you get used to that. And then all of a sudden one day you meet somebody who doesn't act like that at all. Who, quite honestly, treats you quite the opposite. They might not laugh at your jokes. They might not compliment you at all. They might actually kind of give you a hard time, but in the process, it's kind of a little bit on the edge. You know, it's very interesting because the way we overlook things in our life or the way we sugarcoat things are very interesting in our life. And we like to see what we want to see. We don't like to see what we don't like to see. And our minds are very good about creating the photograph that you want to see and creating what's going on in your mind the way you want to see it, right? We've all gone through that where we go, oh, they're just saying that because they care. Or, you know, that's just the personality that they are. And that's fine, but tonight we're going to talk about how when that one person doesn't really want to be with you, or at least that's the game they're playing, how wild it is that we as a human being not only play along with that game, but for some reason we try to win. We don't just try to win, we put all of our emotion and thought into this. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, think about it. If you were running for president of the United States, and there was one person in Ohio that wasn't going to vote for you, and everybody in the whole world was going to vote for you, and it's a landslide, okay? And everybody knows you're going to win, but this one person in Ohio writes blogs, gets on the cover of the newspaper. Let's just throw it out there like that. Let's give them a little more credence, give them a little more credibility here. They're even on the front page of the newspaper in Ohio saying how you suck. And how you'll be the worst possible president. You're awful in every shape, form, and way, and they're never going to accept you, period. But everybody else in the world is voting for you. How crazy would that be to fly to Ohio and to beg to have a meeting with this person? To beg and to plead, please give me a chance. Please, oh God, you gotta give me a chance. Think about it. And you know what's so funny is they're either going to give you a chance and they're going to walk all over you, or they're going to deny your chance and you're going to fly back from Ohio going, my God, what the heck is wrong with me? But a lot of us wouldn't. We would keep going and going and going until that person finally agreed to have that meeting, while the rest of the country's like, where is Ashley going? Why is she flying out to Ohio for that one person that doesn't like her at all? Maybe she's not the right person for president. Maybe we shouldn't be voting for her. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what I'm talking about tonight is that exact example, except for the fact you're not running for the president of the United States at this time, okay? And it's that one person that doesn't accept you. That one person that doesn't buy into whatever you're putting out there, whatever you're selling, and that one person that you seem to not be able to get out of your mind. I know it's crazy. We as humans are crazy in the fact that we want everybody to love us. And if one person doesn't, we got to find out why and what we can do to change it. And is there anything we can do to change it? And we will spend our lifetime trying to figure that out. When in reality, it's normal for people to not like you. It's normal for people to not like you. And we'll talk about that later on, because a lot of times we take everything as though it's all based on us. You've heard that saying, it's not all about you, okay? And that is so true. And I'm going to be talking about that later on tonight, how it's not all about you. And it's not all about you because it's funny because, you know, I've talked about this on other shows before where when people make comments to you or say things to you, and I explain the fact that it's not about you. Like sometimes people will make comments, but it has nothing to do about you and it has nothing to do with what you said. And the reason why that is because whatever is processing in their mind, they're kind of responding to that, and it's all kind of colored and changed by their what? Perception. The way they perceive something. And so we're going to be talking about that more later on here in the hour, as well as how we were designed. We were designed and created, and I can't explain why until we come back from break, to be people pleasers. And because we are people pleasers, it is extremely difficult to let go of that one person that doesn't accept you. Stay tuned and return me talking about the people-pleasing gene. We're going to later on talk about why people reject us, but better yet, the things we can begin to do tonight to stop this cycle of chasing these people that don't accept us and to spend more time cultivating the relationships of the people that do. Stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight I'm talking about the desire we have to be loved, but better yet, why is it that one person can deny us, cannot accept us, will find fault in us, and we allow that person to take up a lot of our mind share? I always find it interesting when, if you're a really loving, outgoing person and people really like you, and for the most part, people get along with you and they like you and they care about you. And I mean, that's normal. And don't you find it interesting how you'll meet somebody, especially somebody you really, really have feelings for, or you think is very hot or sexy or whatever, and they treat you quite the opposite. And at first, it's kind of cute in a way. It's almost like a cat and mouse game. You're like, ooh, this is different. Anything different is good. This seems very fun and challenging. And yeah, in the beginning, it can seem kind of cute and challenging, but later on down the road, it begins to take up a lot of your mind share, because this person doesn't treat you like everybody else. They treat you quite poorly. They put you down, they treat you bad, and they will never give you acceptance, even though that's what you want so bad. You want it so bad. You want them to accept you so bad. Why can't they just accept me? Oh, God, why? And I think it's interesting because all these other people in your life can treat you so well, with respect, with care, like holding you up on the highest of pedestals. When what? When you're too busy over there thinking about that girl or that guy, either in a love type relationship or in a friendship, that won't either give you the time of day, won't accept you, or won't treat you that well, or put you down. And it's always very interesting to me how these relationships work, because you got all these other people that actually care about you, but the one person on your mind is the person that doesn't, or at least the person that's playing very good mind games with you. So it goes back, I think, to the beginning of when we were born as children. We were all born as children, right? We were all born as children. And, we had parents, whether they were grandparents or your mom and dad or appointed parents or what have you. They were all parents. And let's just say your mom and dad raised you. And when we're children, I think we innately realize that there's a higher power, but it's not completely, it's not something we think about. But what we do think about a lot more than often is that our parents are these big beings. And I think we somehow are not, and I'm not saying that they were God, but I'm saying that I think we kind of see them as God in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's kind of similar to our pets, to our dogs, our cats, and what have you. And I feel that they actually look up to us and they see us as this big being. And it's almost like we're their God, right? I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like they look up to us like God. When we were kids, we looked to our parents like they were God. And it's interesting how we truly, truly wanted to please them in every way, shape, and form. Okay? We loved them. And it was an innate desire to just do everything we can to get the respect and love from our parents. And I think it's interesting how this kind of spirals into our people-pleasing gene that a lot of you have, and I have too, and I've had to work on this gene, this genetic thing called people-pleasing, because it starts at a very early age. It starts with childbirth when we were kids and we were very young, and we look up to our parents, and I think that it continues to change and morph the older we get. And think about it, when you were in elementary school and you were playing on the playground, right? You're playing on the playground and there you were and you made friends and you hung out and you were in class and you made friends and you did all that stuff. And it was very interesting. You wanted everybody to be your friend. You wanted everybody to love you, to care about you. It's just the way it is. It's just the human nature. I mean, yes, some of you out there are totally renegade. And you'd rather have everybody just hate on you because you don't like the concept of people loving you. You have a bit of a problem with it. You feel a little weird about it. And I get it. And there's other issues to that as well. But we're talking about this people-pleasing gene. We're talking about overcoming this hurdle of acceptance. And it's funny how for the most part, we all have that girl or that guy, even in a romantic relationship that we fell for. And the relationship was good until it was bad, right? And it's interesting how that person never truly loved you. They held over your head what you were not good at. And we worked our butt off to get their attention. You wanted nothing but to hang out with them and to be with them, and that never worked. And instead it hurt you. You got sad. You got depressed. You got angry. And for some of us, we kept throwing ourselves to that situation, throwing ourselves at that person, trying to change anything we could to make that person love us. To change anything we could to make that person love us. Some of us got very sad. Got depressed. Some of us decided we could drink it off. The more alcohol we had, the more drunk we got, the better it would be. We'll forget all this. We'll get past it. We don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need them anyway. And he always had some friends. Man, I knew she was bad news from the beginning. You know, man, I knew it, dude. I could spot it. Or I knew he was bad news. Oh, yeah, everybody knew. And you're like, well, where were you when I need you? And you get some courage up and you've had a lot to drink and you're like, yeah, screw them, man. Someone's better than that relationship. I didn't need that crap. And it's not until you get home on your own where what happens? Oh, no. You know what happens. You start getting that phone out and maybe you call. I mean, it's a ballsy deal, but you might actually get on the phone and call. Or you're texting. And for the most part, what happens? They don't answer. And they don't respond. Because that's about how much they care. And you wake up the next morning and everything's okay. Everything's okay until you realize what you did. I know. It's hard to laugh at. You got to take a little time to step back a little bit because it's real raw in that situation. And there you are. Oh, my God. And you look at your cell phone and you go, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. Oh, my God, I can't believe I did this. Oh, my God. Oh, Lord. And for those few hours that you passed out in bed, Like it was bliss because he had no idea that you had actually texted or called them. And everything was fine. Everything was fine. And you wish that somebody like a fairy or some fairy princess or somebody, a genie in a bottle, would have come out of that bottle and erased your call list or erased your text messaging list and you would have never known. But no. You get to wake up to the utter painful truth that not only did you call or text or both last night, they did not respond. And they still haven't responded. And as you get your butt up to work feeling like utter crap, and you sit at your desk and you do your thing, and by about 10 o'clock in the morning you look down and you realize they still haven't responded. And I'll give you another piece of information. They're not going to respond because they have you just where they want you. Groveling. Needing them. Needing their acceptance. And I always find this very funny because, there's a lot of people out there that seem like they have it all together. They seem like they have it all together, like they have figured it all out. And, especially those folks that have the best jobs in the world and have a lot of power over people and they're in these prestigious positions. And you assume that because they have this, that everything else in their life is figured out too. Well, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. And I'll give you a little tidbit of information before we really get into the substance and the guts of what I'm talking about tonight. Is that a lot of times when you give people power over you, now not everybody, because I don't fall into this category, but a lot of people will use the power that you give them. And it's part of life. Especially people that feel powerless. If they feel powerless and they feel as though their life doesn't have power, if you give them power over your life, they'll take it. They'll just take it. Because it's theirs for the taking, right? Because you're giving it to them. And because we're after their acceptance, we don't really realize the power we're giving them. Check out AshleyBurgess.com, AshleyBurgess.com, and tweet me at Ashley Burgess. And the next time you tweet me, hashtag LYTL, which stands for what? Live Your True Life. Stay tuned because Live Your True Life Perspectives will be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. I've been talking tonight about the desire we have to be loved. And when one person denies us that love, it fills our mind and it takes over our mind. It takes our mind space. And it's a very interesting thing because it begins to take up a lot of real estate in our mind. We're constantly thinking about it, constantly wondering what we should do. And we stop focusing on what matters. And I would have to say that most, if not all, of my listeners have been there at one point in time or another. I've done it. I've been there. I mean, it happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us to sit there and have things like this happen. And usually, we're very strong, put together, know what we're doing people. But occasionally, we run into a situation like this, whether it's a friendship, it's a work relationship, it's a love or lust relationship. But even more so than just that, some of us deal with this for a lifetime because it's a parent issue. We have this people-pleasing gene that we had since we were a kid, remember? And it's this thing that we want to please everybody. We want to make everybody happy. We want to make sure that we're the life of the party. We want to be all that to everybody. And when we don't seem to be able to muster that or manage through that, we find fault in ourselves and we go to that person to try to get acceptance. Because if we think about it, we think if we can just get acceptance from them, then all will follow along. If we can just get acceptance from them, our life will have meaning. If we can just get acceptance from them, there is nothing wrong with us. We are perfect. We are great. Everything's good. We go back to normal. And I find that an interesting situation. Remember when I was talking about the voter in Ohio? So let's just say that everybody in the world, everybody in the United States is going to vote for you for president. Every single person is going to vote for you. There's not one person against you except for this one voter in Ohio that happens to get a little bit of share in the newspaper, in some random newspaper in Ohio, and says that you're a jerk off and that you're awful and that you're the worst. And nothing ever is going to happen good in this country if you're running this country. At the world, we're all in a destined hell in a handbasket, really, because you're going to be at the helm and everybody should just go on and say their prayers and hope they die tomorrow night in their sleep. And so instead of looking at how all these other billions of people think you're awesome and understand where you're coming from and are cheering your name, you're busy wondering about that one voter in Ohio who hates your guts. And it's the same type of thing. We work on the same type of operation. When one person doesn't want to give us their acceptance, doesn't want to love us, doesn't want to do anything that we want, we feel unaccepted, unqualified, and we want to know why they're not going to accept us. Why not? I don't want to think about the hundreds of people that are in my life that really accept me. I don't want to think about the other people that really, that we connect. And I don't want to think about the people that actually, get something out of my message. I want to think about that one person or two people, really, who have vocally explained that they do not like me and do not give me their acceptance. And so when we move past the people-pleasing gene and we realize that this is by design, that this has been going on our whole life to please, to make others happy, and we realize that we kind of we've been doing this for a long period of time. And it's interesting how these people that we want their acceptance, they've rejected us, and we see this as a rejection. They're not accepting us. And I think it's interesting how if you're not insane, you're not an egomaniac, you're not completely and utterly crazy in a bad way, and for the most part, you're well loved by other people and by other people in your life, but this particular person doesn't want to accept you, will not show you love, and you're fascinated by why they won't. And in the beginning, like I was talking about, it's like an adventure. You're like learning something. You're like, wow, this is a challenge. I'm going to take on this challenge and I'm going to win. But I'll be honest with you, usually in these types of relationships, you don't win. Instead of winning, you begin to put a lot of time and energy into this one relationship that doesn't seem like you owe it a minute of your time. I always find it interesting when people are fascinated by the people who treat them poorly. And I find that often the case with clients who come into my office and talk about, I met somebody, but they're just so nice. I don't know. They seem like they're needy because they're nice. Maybe there's something wrong with them. And it's interesting how nice and needy have come together, which to me has no relevance whatsoever. But a lot of us are used to people that treat us poorly. And because we get used to that, we don't understand when people treat us well. So let's talk about the reasons for it, and then let's begin to talk about how you can overcome these relationships and move on. The first thing about any relationship in your life, and it's something that a lot of us don't realize, is that it's all about you. Every relationship in your life, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's give and take or all give or all take, is all about you. The way you act and what you do in that relationship is based on what you want to do. At any time, you can walk away. At any time, you can change it. At any time, you can tell them exactly how you feel. However, we usually play games. Or we're too scared to tell somebody how we feel because we're scared on how they're going to respond. Or we don't really know how we feel, but we know that we like this person or we know that we want to be treated better. And it's interesting because it is all about us. No matter the most painful relationship you're in, why have you kept this painful relationship around? Do you feel as though you should be in pain? Do you feel as though you're doing something wrong that you should be condemned? Do you feel as though you deserve it? And I find that very interesting too, because a lot of people out there take abusive relationships and keep them around. And they'll never say that they deserve it or they believe that they should be abused. Not at all. But you know what? Subconsciously, they do. Subconsciously, they believe that they should be or they wouldn't be allowing this relationship in their life. It's not until you understand who you are and understand what you're doing in this lifetime do you begin to either accept or not accept things in your life. And let me explain. A person who is doing you wrong can only do wrong by you if you allow it. And I know some of you go, well, that's easier said than done. But let me explain. Sadly enough, an animal that's domesticated is almost unable to leave a situation. And I understand that is being abused, and it's an awful situation. And I just wish that the universe would just realize how important animals are to our planet, but better yet, how animals are unconditional love. However, some people have not figured this out. Some people have not been awakened yet and don't understand that. However, I understand the concept of a male or female in an abusive relationship that claims that they are somewhat domesticated and the fact that they can't leave, but yet we as humans have the ability to leave. We have the ability to leave a relationship, or we have the ability to stop a relationship in its tracks that is not providing acceptable relationship type atmosphere. For example, love, support, emotional support, a non-destructive, non-abusive relationship, a give and take situation. And I think there's a lot of relationships out there that a lot of us have found ourselves in that are not beneficial, do not help you in any way. And a lot of the reasons why we're in it is because we figured that we could change the person. We figured that our love will set them free and they'll change automatically. We have that egotistical thought process that we can change anybody. But also we feel that our love can maybe awaken them and they could figure out what life's about and we could caress them in our love and they would just be like, oh yes, I've seen it. I've seen the light. And yes, sometimes I guess that could happen, but the thing is that it has to come from within. In order for somebody to change, they have to change themselves. I know. For some of you out there, it sucks. I get it. You're like, if they would be so much better if they just did X, Y, Z. But they have so much potential. But potential is just that. It's just potential. And they have to see it, and they have to make the change. And so when we return, I'll be talking about the 3 things that you can do right now to stop allowing negative, non-working relationships to take up your mind share, but better yet, why you've allowed it to do that in the past. Because we can't stop something in our life until we know why we do it, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, if I don't know why I'm doing something, I can't stop it. So when we return, I'll be talking about why we accept these relationships or why we continue to ponder these relationships and how you can overcome this and move on with your life. Stay tuned because Live Your True Life Perspectives we'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
You could be my
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. So why is it that we enter relationships that take up a lot of mind share in our mind, that don't help us out, that don't give us what we want, that make us want and desire things that we can't have, that actually we just sit there and wonder why? Why won't they accept us? Why don't they love us? Why don't they care about us? Why doesn't this relationship work? And I figured out that all of our relationships are based on ourselves. All the relationships we find ourselves in are directly based on ourselves. Because we feel inadequate, because we want acceptance, because we want love, we look for it from other people. And when we don't get it from other people, we basically just fixate on that. And as we fixate on that more and more and more, it takes over our life. And just like I was talking about earlier in the show about how, you sit there and you get over it, you try to get past the relationship if it's a love relationship, and you drink and you get drunk, and the next thing you know, you're texting or you're calling, and you wake up the next day and go, oh my God. And that person hasn't responded. And it's interesting because there's a lot of characteristics about those types of relationships. It's not until you're gone, it's not until you're taken that they want you. And that usually happens most of the time. Is that right when you move on, they're coming after you because they want what they can't have. And so let me begin to explain why we find ourselves in these situations. The biggest thing and the biggest reason why we find ourselves in this situation is acceptance. We want to be accepted by others. We want others to give us acceptance, right? That we want them to accept us, to accept everything we do, to accept who we are. But the big problem with all this, and a lot of times this happens with parents, is one of our parents walks out and you want acceptance. Let's say your dad leaves. Dad breaks up with mom back when you were 6 or 7 years old. And dad occasionally came around, but he was too busy always dating some woman in some relationship, trying to score some job. And you really wanted your dad just to accept you, to love you. And so a lot of your mind share as a kid, even in adulthood, was getting your dad to accept you. Doing things that your dad would be proud of. And when you were back in school, if you were a guy, if you were a boy and you're in school and your dad took off and you were there with your mom, you might have wanted to try to play sports to try to get your dad attention, to have him impressed with you. As you got through college, maybe you majored in the same thing as your dad did to get his attention again, to get his acceptance. And you see what I'm saying? This is like a slippery slope effect, is that we want the acceptance from people, and it's hard for us not to fixate on not getting the acceptance. And so the thing that keeps us holding on is that we want their acceptance, but it's not about them. It's really about us. And until we accept ourselves, until we clearly and honestly accept ourselves for who we truly are, get it? We can't get over this. Because in reality, what we need is ourself to accept ourselves. And the only way we can do that is to love ourselves with warts and all, to accept who we are, to overcome some of the issues we have, and to actually look at ourselves and say, man, look how far I've come, look what I've done, look what I've created, but better yet, I love myself. And it's not until we accept and love ourselves that we just won't allow people in our life that don't. And the reason why we allow these people that don't accept us to have so much mind share is because we need their acceptance because we don't have it for ourselves. And it's not just one person that doesn't accept you, it's you and that person. And I explain this to a lot of my clients. I always point to a bottle of water. And I say, see that bottle of water? And I pick it up. And I show them the bottle of water. And I go, do you see this? And they go, yeah. And I go, see this bottle of water as acceptance. the acceptance that you want from your mom, the acceptance that you want from the woman that you're dating, the acceptance that you want from the man that you're married to. And acceptance, when you don't accept yourself, is clear and utter power. So not only is this bottle of water the acceptance that you want, it's also power over you, because you need me to do something for you that you aren't doing for yourself. So think about it. If you're not doing it for yourself and you're asking me to do it for you, I can decide to do it or not do it. And I can hold this bottle of water over your head for as long as I want to, because I have the power to, because you've given me the power to either accept you or negate you. And I might just wait and keep you in limbo for a while because I just don't know what to do. I just don't know. A subconscious thought that I would have is, if they don't accept themselves, why should I accept them? But better yet, let's think about it in different terms. I know a lot of you out there believe that everybody's playing a mind game, but what if you realize that you're playing a mind game with yourself? So think about it. You're giving them the power of acceptance over you, right? Why would anybody ever give away their power? And think about it. You're giving someone power over you to accept you. But let me throw in a little caveat here, a little oh my God moment. You're giving somebody the power to accept you that probably hasn't even accepted themselves. Booyah! So if they haven't even accepted themselves and you give them the power to accept you, what happens? If they haven't accepted themselves, they don't know how to accept you. How do they accept you? They don't know, because they haven't accepted themselves. So you've given somebody the power to do something that they don't even know how to do it. It's like giving somebody the key to turn for the bombs. If they don't know how to turn the key and they don't even know where the key goes, they're going to hold that key over your head forever because they have no idea where it goes. And it's not necessarily like they're being a jerk. They just don't know how to do it. So you've given the power to somebody that doesn't even know how to do it for themselves. They're going to hold it because they don't know what to do, even though you feel like they're just being an ass. And not only that, you get upset because you go, man, they're holding back from accepting me. Why? I must have done something wrong. I must be a bad person. I must not be perfect. How do I become perfect? Oh God, how do they love me? Why won't they just love me? All I need is their love. And that's when people go crazy. That's when people do crazy things. Because they want that person to love them so bad, but they don't realize it's not about that other person loving them. It never has been, and it never will be. Even if that other person turns around tomorrow and goes, I love you, I accept you, and they do everything to show you that, there's going to be somebody else that comes into your life, doesn't love you, doesn't accept you, and you're going to fixate on them next. And why is that? Because you don't love yourself completely, and you don't accept yourself completely. Because if you completely accepted yourself and you completely loved yourself, you would have no time for people like that. And I know for some of you out there, you're like, Ashley, hey, I've been working on this soul search stuff. I've been working on, living in my heart space, and I found love for myself, but I still fall into the trap sometimes of falling into the trap of wanting somebody's acceptance, of wanting someone's love, and they're holding it over my head. What do I do, and how do I overcome that relationship? Well, that's a good question. And my response to that would be this. There's something within you that has attached value to the relationship at hand. Because of that attached value, you have given them some power over you, or you are codependent in that relationship. There is some sort of codependency playing out within the relationship that you need to see. Better yet, A lot of us believe that we love ourselves, but there's certain things that we haven't really contributed to. And it's time to kind of sit back and begin to understand ourselves as a human being. Because if we give away that water bottle of acceptance and we give it to somebody else to accept us, but they've never accepted themselves, they can't follow through. They can't do it, okay? It's time for us to take that back. And I know some of you say, hey, my parents, I've wanted my parents' acceptance my whole life. And I feel like I've been fighting for their acceptance, and nothing I do, it seems like nothing I ever do ever makes them interested or proud of me. And I'm so tired of it, I don't know what to do. In this situation, remember, just because they're a parent doesn't mean that they know how to love themselves. Just because they're a parent doesn't mean that they accept themselves. I'm telling you, once you take that bottle of acceptance back, and you begin to see all that's within you and realize that not until you accept yourself will other people do so. But by the time they accept you after you've already accepted yourself, you don't need it. You don't need it. It's wild. It's the weirdest thing. It's like the concept of when you have a job, right? Like there's 1,000 other jobs. There's 1,000 other people that want to hire you. But when you don't have a job, it's really, really hard to find a job. It's the same thing as accepting yourself and actually truly accepting yourself on a daily basis and accepting yourself and caring about yourself. All of a sudden, everybody else cares about you and accepts you too. Because why is that? And this is the golden nugget. This is the third thing. Is that people only do what they see, what they understand, and what's being done. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you walk into a situation and you feel lesser than, you don't feel as competent, you don't feel like a leader, you're going to show that way. You're going to come off that way, and people are going to say so-and-so's a follower. They're going to think it. They might not say it, but they're going to know subconsciously that you're not a leader. Okay? If you walk into a situation and you have clear and utter acceptance of yourself, you're not only confident, but you love yourself, and it comes out in every single thing you do. The only thing someone else can do is to accept you because you've already done it. They're following the leader. They're already doing what's being done. The status quo is being lived up to. And so remember, in all future relationships, if you don't accept yourself and if you don't love yourself, you can't ask somebody else to do it because it's got to start with you. The caveat is that if you're giving them that power, usually most people don't love themselves or accept themselves either, so they can't do that for you. You're asking them to do something they haven't even done for themselves. How can they do that for you? It's like if I've never built a house, I can't build you a house too. Okay, I've got to have some houses under my belt. I've got to know how to build a house. I've got to know how to be a contractor, how to do all the subcontracting work. And then maybe I can build you a house. But if I don't know how to do that, I can't build you a house. I can draw you a little stick house on paper or give you a name and number to a good builder, but I don't know anything else besides that. And so realize right now that it's your time to begin to love yourself, to understand how to love yourself, to find the love within you, to allow your imperfections to not be at the top of your list when you think about yourself, to put a big hug around those things that you don't find are favorable or perfect about yourself. Work to be better than you were yesterday, not to compete against other people, but to be better than you were yesterday. And of utmost importance, learn how to accept yourself for who you are. And once you do that, the world is your oyster. Because you will not look for acceptance anymore, and you will stop going down the road of relationships that were unfulfilling, that make you unhappy, and that cause pain in your life. Always more answers, less questions, and live your true life perspectives. We'll be back this time, and well, I know. I wish we could come back right now, but we'll be back this time in 3 shakes.